She sat at the edge of the ballroom, clutching the invitation she should have never accepted. Her twin sister was marrying the man she once loved, and every flash of a camera felt like punishment. But just when humiliation threatened to break her, a billionaire leaned in and whispered, "Pretend we're together." What happened next shocked everyone in that room. You're watching this from somewhere in the world. Tell me, where are you tuning in from, and what time is it right now? And while you're here, subscribe before the next twist catches you off guard. She sat at the very end of the third row, where no one would notice her, where no one wanted to. The hall shimmered with gold chandeliers and laughter that didn't belong to her. It was supposed to be her day once. Now it was Celeste's. Her twin sister glowed at the altar, wrapped in a custom Dior gown, her hand clasped in Ethan veils. The same Ethan who once promised forever to Aria Blake. Every camera flash felt like a slap. Every whisper burned. She came alone? She looks different since the breakup. Poor thing, still pretending she's fine. Aria forced a smile she didn't feel and looked down at the pale roses trembling in her hands. Her chest ached, not from heartbreak, but humiliation. Then came the moment that shattered her. Celeste turned, locking eyes with her for just a second, and smiled. The kind of smile that said, "I won." The priest's words blurred. Applause filled the hall like thunder, and Aria clapped too, because what else could she do? She stood when everyone stood, but her knees nearly gave out. The world spun in polished marble and perfume. She wanted to disappear, to become invisible again. That's when she heard a low voice beside her. Calm, confident, out of place. "You shouldn't have come alone." Aria turned. A man stood beside her, tall, dark suit, pressed to perfection, eyes unreadable. He looked like someone who never had to beg for a thing. "Excuse me?" "You're making it too easy for them," he said, voice even. "Pretend you're with me." She blinked, confused. "What?" He leaned in, close enough that she caught a trace of sandalwood and rain. "Just play along." Before she could protest, his hand slipped around her waist, not possessive, just practiced. Heads turned, cameras clicked. In a single gesture, the narrative changed. The whispers turned into gasps. The pity in people's eyes became curiosity. Who was he? Why her? And why did his presence feel both dangerous and safe? Aria tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip slightly. "Smile," he murmured. "They're watching." She did. Not for him, but for herself. For the first time that night, she wasn't the broken twin. She was the mystery. When the ceremony ended, he guided her out of the crowd, his hand steady on her back. Outside, the air was cooler, sharper, honest. "Who are you?" she asked. He looked at her then, really looked, like someone memorizing a face he shouldn't. "Landon Hale," he said. "You'll remember that name." She frowned. "Why did you help me?" "Help you?" He smiled faintly. "Who said I did this for you?" A limousine door opened behind him. He handed her a card, embossed, expensive, almost taunting. "If you ever want to change your story," he said, "call me." Then he was gone. The night wind lifted her hair as the wedding fireworks began to burst overhead. Gold and white lights filled the sky, beautiful, cruel, and far away. She looked down at the card. Black letters, silver trim. Landon Hale, Hale Capital Group, Manhattan. She exhaled a shaky laugh. A stranger's name, a billionaire's title, a dangerous offer. And for the first time in months, Aria felt something other than pain. She felt curiosity. "You'll remember that name," he'd said. She already did. The morning after the wedding felt heavier than the night itself. The dress Aria wore still hung over a chair, wrinkled and smelling of expensive perfume that wasn't hers. Her phone buzzed, messages, photos, gossip headlines. Her name, her face, plastered across wedding blogs like some side note to her sister's fairy tale. Heartbroken twin attends wedding alone. Mystery man comforts bride's sister. She scrolled, her stomach twisting. Every photo showed her beside him, Landon Hale. In one, his hand rested lightly on her back. In another, he was whispering something near her ear, and the comments poured in. Who is he? They look perfect together. Plot twist, maybe she's winning after all. Her laugh came out bitter. Winning? If only they knew. A knock echoed through the small Brooklyn apartment. She froze. No one ever visited. When she opened the door, a courier stood there holding an envelope embossed in silver. Delivery for Miss Blake. Inside, an invitation. Hale Capital Group, Manhattan. No message, just a time. Tuesday, 10 a.m. The Hale Tower rose like a mirror into the clouds, its glass walls reflecting the city she could barely afford to live in. She stepped into the marble lobby, nerves tight in her throat. Landon Hale waited on the top floor, by a panoramic window that made the skyline look small. He didn't smile. You came. You sent for me. I offered you an opportunity, he said, motioning to a chair. Sit. Arya hesitated before sitting, the silence between them sharper than the view outside. What opportunity? She asked finally. He poured coffee but didn't drink. Last night you were drowning in pity. Today you're a headline. Public sympathy is a currency, and I intend to use it. Use it? How? Appear with me. A few events, photos, dinners. You play the part of someone important to me. In return, I'll make sure your name and reputation survive the mess your family left you. Her jaw tightened. So you want a fake relationship? I prefer the word arrangement. And what do you get out of it? Let's just say, he said evenly, I like to make certain people uncomfortable. Being seen with you will do exactly that. She leaned forward. Why me? He met her eyes, unblinking. Because you have nothing left to lose, and you don't scare easy. The words stung, mostly because they were true. She wanted to walk away, to tell him he was arrogant, manipulative, maybe even cruel. But deep down, she knew. This was her chance to rewrite her story, to stop being the victim. If I agree, she said slowly, I have conditions. He tilted his head. Go on. No touching in private, no intimacy. And if I say I'm done, it ends. He smiled faintly. Then you understand the rules already. He slid a thin folder across the desk. A contract. Arya's name in elegant print beside his. Hale Capital's seal gleaming at the bottom. Sign it, he said. You'll be in control of your own scandal. Her pen hovered over the line. Her reflection stared back at her from the glossy surface. For the first time in months, she didn't look like someone destroyed. She looked like someone dangerous. She signed. Landon closed the folder with quiet finality. Good, he said. Our first public appearance is tonight. Tonight? There's a benefit gala at the Metropolitan. You'll need a dress. My assistant will send options. Be ready by 7. She stood, pulse racing. And what do I tell people when they ask who I am? He stepped closer, his voice low. Tell them you're exactly who they think you are. Arya stared at him, unsure if it was threat or promise. He looked down at her hand, the same one that had once worn Ethan's ring, and said, Smile when the cameras flash. Pretend long enough, and you'll start to believe it too. She left his office, the city roaring beneath her like a heartbeat. Somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that she'd just made a deal she didn't understand. The elevator doors closed. Her reflection stared back again, different this time, still hurting, still lost, but ready. The car ride to the gala felt longer than it was. Manhattan glowed outside the tinted windows, bright, alive, and merciless. Arya sat in silence, her fingers tracing the smooth edge of her clutch. She told herself she didn't care anymore, that she'd moved past the pain. But memory has sharp teeth. Ethan's voice still echoed in her head. You know I'll always love you, Arya. just not the way you want me to." Those words had torn something out of her that never grew back. The night she found out about him and Celeste replayed like a bad movie. She had walked into her sister's apartment to return a borrowed dress. Laughter, a half-open door, and there they were, her sister and the man she thought she'd marry. She remembered the way Celeste gasped, the way Ethan tried to speak. She remembered the silence that followed, thick enough to drown in. Her mother called it a misunderstanding. Her father said, "You're too emotional." So she left. Quit the family company, gave up the apartment, and vanished into Brooklyn with nothing but a box of clothes and too much pride. Now, months later, she was heading back into that same glittering world, but not as the broken twin. Tonight, she was someone's headline. The car slowed in front of the Metropolitan. Cameras flashed before she even stepped out. Landon exited first, polished and unreadable. He extended his hand, and she hesitated only a second before taking it. Their entrance was perfectly timed. Every head turned. Whispers floated through the air like perfume. That's Aria Blake. With Landon Hale? Impossible. Wasn't she the sister? Landon leaned slightly toward her, voice low. "Breathe. They're watching for weakness." "I'm fine." "Good," he said. "Then smile like you mean it." And she did. Because the moment she stepped onto that red carpet, she wasn't Aria, the forgotten twin. She was a mystery wrapped in silk and confidence. The pain still lived inside her, but now it looked like power. Inside, champagne flutes clinked. A live band played slow jazz. Landon guided her through the crowd like a man who owned every room he entered. He spoke to board members, senators, actors, introducing her simply as someone worth knowing. Every glance, every flash of curiosity fed something dangerous inside her, something she thought had died the night her sister betrayed her. Across the room, a familiar laugh froze her in place. Celeste. Of course she was there, dressed in pale gold, radiant, smug, with Ethan beside her. Aria's throat tightened. Landon followed her gaze. "That's the sister, isn't it?" "Don't," Aria whispered. "Just don't." He tilted his glass, studying them from afar. "She's enjoying the show. Give her a better one." Aria met his eyes, confused. "What are you doing?" "Exactly what I said," he murmured. "Pretend." He reached for her hand, slowly, deliberately, and brushed his lips against her knuckles. The crowd noticed, instantly. Cameras turned. Celeste's smile faltered. For the first time in a long time, Aria didn't look away. She held her sister's gaze, unflinching, the faintest curve of triumph on her lips. The band shifted to a slower song. Landon offered his hand again. "Dance with me." "People will talk." "That's the point." She hesitated, then stepped into his arms. They moved together like they'd done this before, each step measured, quiet, dangerous. "You're good at this," she said softly. "I don't do anything I can't control." "Including people?" He smiled faintly. "Especially people." The words should have chilled her, but instead they intrigued her. Every secret he kept only made her want to know more. When the music ended, applause followed. Celeste turned away. Ethan pretended not to stare. Aria exhaled, her pulse unsteady. For a moment, it didn't matter what was fake. It only mattered that for once, she didn't feel small. As they left the dance floor, Landon's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, expression tightening just slightly, something she wasn't supposed to see. "Is everything okay?" "Perfect," he said. "Now, smile one more time. Someone important just arrived." "Who?" He looked toward the door. "The man who ruined my family." Aria followed his gaze and froze, because walking in hand with Celeste, was her father. "You might want to keep pretending," Landon murmured. "The real story hasn't even started yet." The applause for Celeste and her father echoed through the hall, hollow and bright. Arya stood perfectly still beside Landon, her pulse thundering beneath her calm expression. He didn't look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the man who'd just entered. Thomas Blake, her father, the man who'd once told her, "Family comes first," before cutting her off like a stranger. He was shaking hands with board members now, laughing, toasting, proud of his flawless daughter, the right daughter. Celeste glowed in the attention like a queen in borrowed light. Arya's chest tightened. She wanted to leave, but Landon's voice stopped her. "Don't move." "He's my father, Landon." "I know exactly who he is." She turned to him, trying to read the shadow in his expression. "What does that mean?" He lifted his glass, eyes still cold. "It means you and I have more in common than you think." Later that night, when the gala ended and the last photographers left, Landon's driver took them to a quiet rooftop bar overlooking Central Park. The city glittered below like scattered diamonds. Arya finally spoke. "You said my family ruined yours. What did you mean?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he studied the skyline as though searching for something he'd lost there. 15 years ago, he said finally, my father trusted the wrong man. He invested in a merger that destroyed everything we built. He lost his company, his reputation, and eventually, his life. He turned to face her. "That man was your father." The words hit her like ice water. "That's impossible." "Is it?" His tone didn't rise. "Because his name is on the documents I have in my office. Every lie, every bribe, every signature." She shook her head. "He's not perfect, but he wouldn't—" "Stop defending people who'd never defend you," Landon interrupted. His voice softened a little after the silence. "You didn't know, I can see that. But now you do." Arya's mind spun. The betrayal she thought ended with Ethan and Celeste suddenly felt much older, heavier. "So what am I to you then?" she asked quietly. "A pawn?" Landon leaned back, watching her. "You're leverage, but not in the way you think." "Then in what way?" "Your family values appearances more than truth," he said, "and nothing scares them more than losing control of a narrative. If you and I are seen together, it shifts the balance. They'll come to me to protect their image. That's when I get what I want." "Revenge?" He smiled faintly. "Closure." Arya stared at him. The city lights flickered across his face, making him look half angel, half executioner. "You really think hurting them will make you whole?" "No," he said, "but it'll make me even." She exhaled, shaking her head. "You're using me." "I'm giving you power," he countered. "You just don't know how to use it yet." She stood, clutching her purse. "And if I walk away?" "You won't." His certainty cut through her anger. "Why not?" "Because you want to know what it feels like to stop losing." Silence. Then, quietly, she said, "You have no idea what I want." "Don't I?" For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the city filled the distance between them. Landon finally set down his glass. "Tomorrow night there's another event, smaller, private. Come if you still want to play your part." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "One more thing," he said over his shoulder. "If you ever start feeling sorry for me, don't. Pity's a luxury I can't afford." Then he was gone. Arya stood alone on the rooftop, the wind tugging at her hair, her thoughts tangled between disbelief and fury. For the first time, she wondered if the man who'd saved her from humiliation had only done it to destroy something bigger. The city lights below blurred through her tears. Maybe she should walk away. Maybe she should burn the contract and forget his name. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, and she'd already signed her soul to it. The rain started just as Arya reached her apartment. It was the kind of storm that blurred the skyline, hiding the city's glitter behind fog. She stood by the window, clutching the contract she'd signed 2 nights ago. Her name looked strange beside his. Arya Blake, Landon Hale. 2 worlds colliding in ink, 2 lies pretending to make sense. Her phone buzzed. A message. From Landon Hale. Be ready by 7. Black dress. No red lipstick. Bring confidence. No greeting. No small talk. Just instructions. She stared at the words and whispered, "What have I done?" At exactly 7, a sleek black car waited outside her building. Landon's driver opened the door without a word. The moment she slid inside, she smelled cedar and rain again. Landon was already there, phone in hand, tailored suit sharp enough to cut through silence. "You're on time," he said. "You said 7. I like people who can follow directions." She met his gaze. "And I like people who explain things." He smiled faintly. "You'll learn more by watching." They didn't speak for most of the drive, only the sound of the rain against glass and the quiet hum of the city waking up in lights. Finally, she broke the silence. "You said this arrangement helps both of us. I know what you want. What do I get?" He looked out the window. "Reputation, relevance, access, power, if you're smart enough to use it. And if I'm not? Then you'll end up like everyone else who trusted your father." Her jaw clenched. "You really hate him." "I hate injustice," he said simply. "He just represents it." The car stopped in front of the Hale residence, a modern mansion overlooking the East River, all glass and steel. Inside, everything gleamed, marble floors, tall vases, the soft sound of a piano playing somewhere distant. She followed him up a winding staircase to a private lounge. 2 glasses of champagne waited. He gestured to the seat opposite him. "Tonight, you'll attend the gala as my partner," he said. "You'll smile when I do. Speak when spoken to. No emotion unless it serves a purpose. So you're telling me to lie? I'm telling you to perform." "Same thing." He leaned back. "Lies built this city, Arya. The truth just lives in its shadow." She stared at him, trying to see if there was any softness behind the arrogance. There wasn't, just precision. "Why me, really?" she asked again. "Because the world already doubted you," he said, "and nothing is more believable than a woman trying to prove she's over her past." She let the words sink in. They stung because they were true. "You know," she said, "you could have just hired someone." "I don't hire people I need to trust," he said quietly. "I choose them." A pause. The music below shifted. He stood and offered his hand. "Try on the role, starting now." She looked up at him. "And what's my role?" "Someone the world underestimates." They walked into the gala together later that night, hand in hand, eyes locked forward. Flashes erupted. Every headline that once pitied her now worshipped her. From across the room, Celeste saw them. Her glass slipped from her hand. Landon leaned in, whispering just loud enough for Arya to hear, "Smile. Your sister's world is cracking." She did. But deep down, a chill ran through her. Because in that single moment, she realized something terrifying. Landon Hale wasn't saving her from humiliation. He was teaching her how to use it. By morning, the photos were everywhere. Landon Hale and Arya Blake, Manhattan's most unexpected couple. The Blake family's quiet twin makes a stunning return. Her face filled gossip sites she'd never been mentioned in before. Every headline turned her heartbreak into entertainment. Every stranger had an opinion about her life. Arya sat in her small kitchen, the newspaper spread across the table beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Calls, interviews, event invites. People who'd ignored her for months suddenly wanted to talk again. Then came the message she didn't expect. From Celeste. "You're embarrassing yourself. He's way out of your league. Stop pretending." She didn't reply. She just stared at the words until the screen went dark. By afternoon, Landon's assistant arrived with a wardrobe, designer dresses in silk and satin, shoes worth more than her rent. The note on top read, "Tonight, benefit dinner, black tie, be ready by 8. At exactly 8, the car waited. When Arya stepped out at the Four Seasons ballroom, camera flashes painted her in light. She could almost feel the narrative changing around her. No longer the pitied twin, now the mystery woman at the billionaire's side. Landon was waiting near the entrance, a glass of champagne in his hand. He didn't greet her with warmth, just a slow once-over that made her self-conscious and powerful all at once. "You clean up well," he said. "I wasn't trying to impress you." "Good," he replied. "Then you'll impress everyone else." They entered together, instantly becoming the focus of every whisper in the room. Arya caught snippets as they passed. "She looks incredible. Do you think it's real?" "That's the Hale heir. He never dates publicly." The sound of curiosity was sweeter than pity. Landon guided her toward a circle of investors and socialites. His hand rested lightly on her lower back, just enough to look intimate, never enough to be personal. He spoke business. She played the silent charm. When people asked how they met, she smiled and said softly, "Wrong place, right time." It was the perfect lie, believable, brief, and beautiful. Halfway through the dinner, Landon leaned in close. "You're doing better than I expected." "You mean I haven't embarrassed you yet?" "I mean you understand the game." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I've been playing it longer than you think." He almost smiled back, but his phone buzzed and his expression shifted. A flicker of annoyance, maybe worry. He stood abruptly. "Excuse me a moment." He walked away, disappearing into the hallway. Arya took a sip of wine, scanning the room. That's when she saw her father again, Thomas Blake, standing near the stage talking to an older man she didn't recognize. Their handshake looked heavy, deliberate, secret. And beside them, Celeste watched, pretending not to. Arya's stomach knotted. When Landon returned, she whispered, "Why is my father here?" He didn't look surprised. "He sponsors half the events in this city. It's what men like him do, buy forgiveness in the form of charity." "You knew he'd be here." "Of course I did." "And you brought me anyway." He looked at her then, voice low. "You said you wanted to stop being a victim. This is what that looks like." "By humiliating them?" "No," he said, "by existing where they didn't want you to." Later, as the auction began, Landon placed a hand over hers under the table. To anyone watching, it looked like affection. To her, it felt like a warning. "You're doing fine," he said. "Don't lose focus now." But she wasn't listening to him anymore. Her eyes were locked on Celeste across the room, her sister whispering something to their father, her glare sharp enough to cut. Arya suddenly realized something chilling. Her family wasn't just angry at her presence, they were afraid of it, and whatever Landon had planned, they knew more about it than she did. The lights dimmed, applause filled the room, and as the spotlight swept over the crowd, it lingered on them, Arya Blake and Landon Hale, side by side, hands entwined, playing a story the world couldn't stop watching. "Tell me, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city and time below. Would you still play along if your family feared you? Subscribe, because next, her sister strikes back, and it won't be quiet." It was well after midnight when the gala ended. The driver opened the door, but Arya didn't move. Her reflection in the car window stared back at her, painted, perfect, hollow. For the first time, she wondered if she was still pretending, or if the act was starting to feel real. Landon was on the phone beside her, voice low and controlled. She only caught fragments. "No, not until I say so. They'll make a move soon." Then silence. When he hung up, she asked quietly, "Who was that?" "Someone who owes me answers," he said. "About my father?" He didn't respond. The car pulled to a stop in front of Hale Tower. He stepped out first, as always. "Come inside," he said. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About what happens when pretending stops being pretend." The penthouse looked different that night. Warmer. Dim lights, the smell of old books and rain drifting through an open window. A record played softly somewhere, a slow jazz tune that didn't fit him, yet somehow did. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, set one in front of her, and said nothing for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. "You think you understand revenge, but you don't." "Then explain it." "It's not fire, Arya. It's ice. It doesn't burn. It freezes everything good in you until you can't tell the difference between justice and cruelty." She studied him. "And which one are you chasing?" He didn't look away. "I'm not sure anymore." For the first time since she met him, Landon looked tired, haunted even. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying a grudge too long. She almost felt sorry for him until he said, "Don't mistake honesty for weakness. I don't regret what I'm doing." "No," she said softly, "but maybe you regret why." That made him laugh once, short and sharp. "Careful, Miss Blake. That sounded like concern." "Maybe it is." The air shifted. Something unspoken passed between them, something dangerous. He looked at her differently now, like she was no longer just a prop in his plan. "You should go home," he said at last. "And if I don't? Then we'll both start believing the lie." The next morning, the tabloids had a new headline: "Arya Blake, from heartbreak to Manhattan's power tables. Landon Hale's mystery girlfriend charms the city." Every photo showed her smiling, glowing, alive. No one could see the exhaustion behind her eyes, the uncertainty crawling under her skin. By noon, her inbox overflowed with invitations, brand collaborations, charity events, interviews. She'd become what Landon promised, a name that mattered again. But with fame came shadows. Someone sent her an unmarked envelope. Inside was a single photo, her and Landon at the gala, caught mid-conversation. Behind them, in the background, Celeste's reflection stared from a mirror, watching. On the back of the photo, a single sentence written in elegant handwriting: "You're in over your head." That evening, Arya stormed into Landon's office, the photo trembling in her hand. "Someone's watching us." He took one look and frowned. "That handwriting, it's hers." "Celeste? Your sister doesn't scare me." "She should," Arya said. "She doesn't act without a reason." Landon studied the picture again, then slid it into his desk drawer. Let her watch. The more she thinks she knows, the less she'll see coming. "You're playing with fire." He met her eyes. "Then let's hope we don't burn the wrong person." That night, Arya lay awake in her apartment, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, the thrill of pretending began to crumble. She didn't know who she could trust anymore, her family, her heart, or the man who'd turned her humiliation into a weapon. Outside, thunder rolled through the city. Inside, her phone buzzed again. A new message. From unknown. "You think he's saving you. He's not." Her breath caught. She looked out the window into the dark. For the first time, she wondered if Landon Hale's revenge wasn't just against her family, but against her too. The storm broke before dawn. Thunder rattled the windows, lightning flickered through her curtains, and Arya couldn't shake the words from that anonymous message. "You think he's saving you? He's not." By sunrise, her phone buzzed again, this time a name she recognized. Celeste. She ignored it. Then came another and another. Finally, one text made her stop. "Celeste. If you're smart, meet me. Noon. The old cafe on 5th. No cameras, no Landon." Arya stared at the screen. Her pulse quickened. Curiosity wins where caution hesitates. The cafe hadn't changed. The same brick walls, the same chipped counter, the same window seat where they used to dream about futures that no longer existed. Celeste was already there, dressed in cream, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She didn't stand when Arya approached. She just said quietly, "You really did it. You made yourself the story." Arya sat across from her, unflinching. "You wanted to talk, so talk." Celeste removed her glasses. The smile she gave was practiced, cold. "You think Landon Hale is your savior? He's not. He's your father's ghost wearing a new suit." "What's that supposed to mean?" It means you're just another deal to him. He's been after Dad for years. You think this is a coincidence? You're leverage, Arya. His ticket into our family's secrets." Arya frowned. "And how do you know that?" Celeste leaned forward. "Because I've been digging. And because I know the look of a man pretending to love someone he plans to destroy." Arya's voice trembled just slightly. "He doesn't love me." "No," Celeste said, "but you love the way he looks at you." The words hit harder than expected, because Celeste was right. "You think you're different from me," Celeste continued. "You're not. We both want power. We just chase it differently. You betrayed me for yours, and you're betraying yourself for his." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain beat softly against the window, the silence thick with old resentment. Then Celeste leaned in one last time. "He'll ruin you, Arya, just like Dad ruined him. That's how men like Landon balance the scales." She stood, tossed a few bills on the table, and whispered, "Don't say I didn't warn you." That afternoon, Arya showed up at Landon's office. He looked up from his desk, surprised. "You're early." "I met my sister." The air shifted. "I told you not to." "She said you're using me to get to my father." His expression didn't change, but the silence said enough. Arya's voice broke. "Is she right?" He stood slowly, his tone even. "I told you from the beginning. This was business. You also told me to trust you." "No," he said. "I told you to perform." Arya took a step back. "Then what happens when the act ends?" "That depends on how convincing you are." That night she didn't sleep. Her mind replayed every moment, every whisper, every look, every lie that felt like truth. Outside, Manhattan buzzed beneath a curtain of rain. Inside, her heart beat too fast to keep up with the noise. When dawn came, she opened her window and looked down at the street below. Cars, horns, the hum of a city that never cared who broke and who rose again. And somewhere out there, Landon Hale was deciding which one she'd be. The next evening, the city looked cleaner than it felt. Skyscrapers shimmered in glass and gold, the air sharp with autumn wind. Arya arrived at Hale Tower again, invited but uneasy. The guard waved her in without a word. The elevator doors closed behind her like a vault. By the time she reached the top floor, her reflection in the mirrored walls no longer looked like her own. Landon was waiting. He stood near the window, phone in hand, talking quietly. When he noticed her, he ended the call without saying goodbye. "You came," he said. "You told me to," she replied. "And yet," he said, "you hesitated." She didn't deny it. "What do you want from me, Landon?" He poured himself a drink but didn't answer. "I have a charity gala tomorrow," he said instead. "We'll attend together. I'm not sure I should keep doing this." "You don't have a choice anymore." His tone was calm, too calm. It wasn't arrogance, it was warning. "Why not?" He crossed the room, closing the space between them until she could feel the heat of his presence. "Because walking away now would make you look guilty." "Guilty of what?" "Of leaking confidential documents from my company." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" He handed her a tablet. Headlines glared from the screen. "Whistleblower inside Hale Capital." "Anonymous source linked to CEO's girlfriend." Below it, her photo, her face, front and center. "They're saying you sent company files to the press," Landon said quietly, "from my private server." She stared at him in disbelief. "You think I did that?" "I think someone wants it to look that way." "Then tell them it's not true." "If I defend you publicly," he said, "the story doubles in value. I need to control the narrative before it controls me." "Control," she repeated, her voice shaking. "That's all this is to you." "It's survival," he said. She turned away, gripping the edge of the desk. "Who leaked it then?" "Your sister," he said, "or your father, maybe both. You don't know that. I know them better than you do." Later that night, Arya sat alone in the back of the car, while the city rushed past in streaks of light. She opened her phone. Social media had exploded. Her name trended beside words like betrayal, corporate spy, fall from grace. Commenters were vicious. Of course it was her. The jealous sister strikes again. Poor Landon Hale, another woman using him. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She couldn't breathe. This wasn't damage, it was destruction. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something in her said she should. "Miss Blake?" a woman's voice asked. "You don't know me, but I work inside Hale Capital. You need to see something." "Who is this?" "Check your email now and don't trust him." The call ended. In her inbox there was one new message. No subject, no name, just an attachment labeled Contract, Addendum Real.pdf. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. It was a version of her contract with Landon, only this one had a clause she'd never seen before. Section 7. Media Clause. The participant agrees to accept full liability for any leaks, scandals, or defamatory coverage arising during the contractual period. Her signature was on it. Perfect, precise, identical. But she had never signed that page. The next morning she stormed into Landon's office. He didn't look surprised. "You knew about this," she said. "I know what you think you saw. You forged my signature." "I protected my company," he said quietly. "It's not personal." "Not personal?" she shouted. "You turned me into the villain to save yourself." "To protect both of us," he corrected. "For now." Her voice broke. "You're using me. I told you what this was. A performance," she whispered, "and you're doing beautifully." She slapped the contract onto his desk, shaking. "You don't get to decide my story anymore." She walked out before he could answer. Outside, the cameras were waiting. Reporters shouted questions. Her face flashed on every screen in Times Square. But this time, the pity was gone. Now she was the scandal. That night, Landon watched the news from his penthouse, glass in hand. The headlines rolled, the damage spreading exactly as he'd planned. But his jaw tightened, and for the first time he didn't look victorious. Because deep down, he knew this move had cost him something he didn't expect. Her trust. The storm outside had passed, but inside, everything was breaking. The next morning, Aria woke to pounding on her apartment door. She opened it to find a courier holding a brown envelope marked Private and Confidential. Inside were old documents, financial statements, partnership agreements, and a faded letter addressed to Thomas Blake. At the bottom, one name appeared over and over again, Robert Hale, Landon's father, and in smaller print below, Hale Capital, merger proposal, 2007. The signature beside her father's, her own father's handwriting, the same one that signed away the Hale family fortune. Her chest went cold. Celeste had warned her. Landon hadn't saved her from her family. He had dragged her back into the same war that destroyed his. She barely noticed her phone ringing until it buzzed itself off the table. It was him. "We need to talk," Landon said the moment she answered. "No," she snapped. "You've done enough." "You don't understand what's happening." "I understand perfectly. You used me to humiliate my father, to avenge yours. It's not that simple." "Then make it simple." A long silence filled the line before he said quietly, "Meet me at my mother's house. Tonight." Then he hung up. The Hale estate was nothing like his sleek Manhattan tower. It was older, quieter, a place built on memory, not money. Portraits lined the hallway, eyes painted in another century. Landon waited in the study. No suit this time, no armor. Just a man who looked haunted. He handed her a small photo. Two men shaking hands, Thomas Blake and Robert Hale, smiling. "That picture was taken the day the deal was signed," he said. "My father thought it was a partnership. He didn't know your father had already sold the assets to another investor behind his back." "You have proof?" He nodded to a folder on the desk. "Everything. Wire transfers, emails, enough to bury him." And you were going to use me to deliver it, she said bitterly. He didn't deny it. At first, yes. At first? Until I realized you didn't know anything. You weren't part of it. She crossed her arms. That didn't stop you from ruining my life. I needed your family to feel what mine did, he said, losing everything, watching their name fall apart. And now that you've succeeded, what do you feel? He met her eyes, steady, stripped of pride. Nothing. That's the problem. Arya looked at the photo again, her father's smile frozen in betrayal. She thought of Celeste, of her mother pretending everything was fine, of the years she'd spent trying to live in a house built on lies. You could destroy him with this, she said quietly. I could, Landon replied, but not without destroying you too. She turned to leave. Maybe that's what I deserve for trusting you. He caught her wrist, his voice sharp. You think I wanted to fall for you? The air between them stilled. That wasn't part of the plan, he said, but it happened anyway. Arya froze. For the first time, the cold precision in his voice cracked. You don't get to say that, she whispered. Not after everything you did. Then tell me to stop, he said. Tell me to walk away. She didn't, because she couldn't. He released her hand slowly, as if letting go hurt more than holding on. When she returned home that night, a message waited on her voicemail, a man's voice, calm, familiar. Miss Blake, this is Detective Lawson with the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you about Hale Capital and your father's past dealings. Please call me as soon as possible. Her heart dropped. She sat on the couch, staring at nothing. For the first time, she realized that the truth Landon had uncovered wasn't his weapon anymore. It was hers, and she would decide who it destroyed. The next morning began like any other, but nothing about it was ordinary. Newspapers hit doorsteps across the city with a headline that sliced through everything Arya had tried to rebuild. The Blake family under investigation for fraud. Hale Capital involved. Her phone exploded with messages, some from reporters, some from strangers, and one from Celeste. Celeste. What did you do? She didn't answer, because she didn't know anymore. By noon, the media was camped outside her building, camera crews, microphones, shouting questions she didn't have answers to. She slipped out the back entrance, hat pulled low, and headed straight to Landon's office. Security tried to stop her. They failed. When she burst through the glass doors, he was already standing behind his desk, watching the same headlines on a mounted screen. You leaked it, she said. I didn't have to, he replied quietly. Your father's partners did it themselves. I just gave them a reason. You promised you wouldn't. I promised nothing, he said. You knew what I was from the beginning. You think this will fix what your father lost? It's not about fixing, he said. It's about balance. Balance, she said, her voice cracking. You've destroyed mine. He stepped closer. You wanted the truth, didn't you? Not like this. There's no clean way to tear down a lie. She glared at him, tears building in her eyes. You used me, Landon. You built your revenge on me. I told you to walk away, and you knew I wouldn't. They stood there, two people caught between fury and something deeper neither could name. You said it wasn't personal, she whispered. But it always was, wasn't it? He didn't answer, and silence told her everything. By evening, the story had turned into a storm. Her father's company was under investigation. Celeste and her husband had gone into hiding, and Arya's name was now attached to every headline as the woman who exposed her own family. At first, she thought Landon had orchestrated it all, but when she turned on the TV that night, even he was being hunted. Hale Capital stock crashes after scandal ties CEO to Blake family fraud. Did Landon Hale manipulate his own girlfriend to bring down a rival? The camera caught him leaving a courthouse, flanked by lawyers, face pale, eyes hollow, and for the first time she saw it. Regret. Her phone rang again. This time, it wasn't a reporter. It was Detective Lawson. "Miss Blake," he said, "we have documents showing your father transferred funds through an offshore account under your name. We need you to come in for questioning." Her breath caught. "That's not possible. Then you'll want to see what we found." He hung up. She looked at her laptop. In her inbox, another message waited. No subject, no sender, just a single line. "You think he betrayed you? Look closer." Attached was a photo. Landon handing a folder to her father at a private meeting. The timestamp? 2 weeks before she ever met him. Her heart stopped. He hadn't stumbled into her life. He'd planned it. Every look, every touch, every whisper of sympathy, all of it, designed. That night she didn't cry. She didn't break things. She just sat in silence, staring out her window at the city that never cared who burned. "You think he's saving you," Celeste had said. "He's not." Now she understood. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she never thought she'd call. When the line clicked, her voice was steady. "Detective Lawson? I'm ready to talk." The rain returned that night, steady, relentless, soaking the city in gray. Arya walked through it without an umbrella, without a plan, her phone clenched in her hand. Detective Lawson's message played in her head again and again. "Your father used your name. We have proof." By the time she reached the Hale building, she was drenched, shaking, half angry, half scared. She told herself she was there for answers, but deep down, she knew. She wanted to see his face when she asked him why. Security didn't try to stop her this time. They must have known better. When the elevator opened to the top floor, Landon was waiting, as if he'd known she would come. He didn't look surprised. He looked defeated. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "You knew," she said. "You knew my father used my name." He didn't deny it. "Yes." Her voice broke. "And you let me take the fall." "It wasn't supposed to go that far," he said. "But it did." "You think I wanted this?" "You planned this," she snapped. "You planned me, from the beginning." He flinched, just barely. "I planned to destroy Thomas Blake," he said, "not you." "There's no difference anymore," she whispered. "You can't ruin a man without ruining everything connected to him. I didn't expect to care." The words came out like an accident, a confession that slipped through armor he'd spent years building. "You don't get to say that now," she said, "not after using me as a weapon." "You were never a weapon, Arya. You were the consequence." She turned to leave. He caught her wrist, gentle, not forceful. "Please," he said, "don't go yet. Let me go." "Not like this." The thunder outside cracked through the silence. The lights flickered. He stepped closer, rain still dripping from her hair, tracing lines down her cheeks. "I spent years trying to destroy the man who took everything from me," he said, "and the only person who made me question it was his daughter." Arya's chest rose and fell, fast, unsteady. "You don't get redemption just because you regret it." "No," he said, "but maybe I can start with honesty." He reached into a drawer, pulled out a thick folder and handed it to her. "That's everything. Every file, every payment, every lie your father ever told. It's yours now. You decide what happens next." She hesitated. "You're giving this up?" "I'm giving you the choice," he said, "because I'm done pretending I know what justice looks like." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The storm outside softened, the sound turning into a steady rhythm against the windows. Finally, she said, "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't expect you to." "Then why help me now?" "Because if I don't," he said, "I'll become the man I swore I'd never be." Arya looked down at the folder in her hands, heavy, dangerous, final. "What happens if I use this?" "Your father's name burns," he said, "and so does mine." She met his eyes. "Then maybe it's time we both stopped pretending to be clean." He almost smiled, but it wasn't joy, it was surrender. For the first time they stood on the same side of the fire. Outside, the city flickered beneath the storm. Two lives tangled in truth, both too broken to turn back. Morning came without sunlight. The storm had passed, but the city still looked washed out. Gray streets, gray skies, gray souls pretending everything was fine. Arya sat at her kitchen table, the folder Landon gave her open in front of her. Each page told the same story. Lies, forged signatures, offshore accounts, a lifetime of power built on theft. Her father's signature marked every sin. Her name appeared on one page, forged cleanly, tied to money she never touched. He had used her not as a daughter, but as a shield. She stared at the final page for a long time, then closed the folder. Her decision was already made. At noon, she walked into the courthouse. Cameras swarmed the steps, flashes blinding her, voices calling her name. But she didn't hide, not this time. Landon was waiting inside. No suit today, no mask. He looked at her like a man who'd already lost everything. "You're really doing it," he said quietly. "It has to end somewhere," she replied. "They'll bury your father." "He buried himself," she said. "I'm just uncovering the grave." He nodded, eyes down. "If you do this, I go down too." "Then you shouldn't have built your revenge on quicksand." "Maybe I deserve it," he said. "But you don't." She took a step closer. "We both made choices. Let's live with them." He looked up, searching her face for mercy. "What happens after this?" "Whatever's left," she said. "Maybe peace, maybe nothing." The press conference was short, brutal, and unforgettable. Arya Blake stood before the world and told the truth. She handed over every document, every receipt, every confession of fraud signed by her father's hand. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed. Some called her brave, others called her traitor. But she didn't flinch. "This isn't about vengeance," she said into the microphone. "It's about ending the cycle that destroyed two families." And somewhere in the crowd, she saw Landon, watching from the shadows, face unreadable. When her eyes met his, he gave a small nod. Not approval, not apology, just acceptance. By evening, it was over. The authorities issued warrants. The Blake family empire collapsed overnight. Celeste and Ethan fled the city. Her father was arrested quietly in his penthouse, escorted out while cameras waited below. Arya didn't celebrate. She walked instead to the river, where the skyline glowed faintly against the dusk. Landon found her there. "You did it," he said softly. "No," she replied. "I told the truth. That's all." "It takes more courage to tell it than to hide it." She turned to face him. "And what about you?" "I'll resign tomorrow," he said. "I can't rebuild what I've destroyed, but I can stop it from spreading." "You'll lose everything." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe I'll finally be free." They stood in silence as the city lights shimmered across the water. Two names, once tied to power, now stripped bare. Two people who started as enemies, standing side by side in the quiet after the storm. For the first time, there was nothing left to hide behind. "You know," she said, "you were right about one thing." "What's that?" "Pretending changes people." He nodded slowly. "So does the truth." 2 months passed. The city kept moving, indifferent to the wreckage it left behind. The Blake name disappeared from office walls, from billboards, from polite conversation. Landon Hale stepped down from his company and vanished from the headlines too. But Arya stayed. Not to rebuild her reputation. She didn't need to. She stayed to rebuild something smaller, quieter and real. The old library on 12th Street had been abandoned for years, its windows cracked, its shelves empty. She rented it with what little money she had left. By the end of summer, it became the Renewal Foundation, a center for women starting over after financial and emotional ruin. Reporters came once, expecting scandal. They found silence instead. Arya didn't give interviews. She gave opportunities, one story at a time. She spent her mornings helping others write resumes, find shelter, learn to trust themselves again. Her afternoons disappeared into paperwork and endless cups of coffee. And in the evenings, when the city lights flickered on, she stood by the window and watched the skyline, the same skyline where her story began. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the air turned to gold, the doorbell rang. She almost didn't answer, but something told her to. Landon stood there, dressed simply, no guards, no suit, no headlines, just a man who had finally put down the armor. "You look different," she said. "So do you," he replied. "Peace suits you." She smiled faintly. "That's what happens when you stop pretending." He looked around the room, the quiet shelves, the books, the small sign on the wall that read, "Everyone deserves a second start." "You built this," he said softly, "out of everything they took from you." "They didn't take everything," she said. "They just showed me what really matters." He nodded slowly. "I came to say thank you." "For what?" "For saving me from becoming the man I hated most." She studied him, unsure if she believed it, but she saw it. The weariness, the honesty, the humility. The war was over. He was done fighting ghosts. They walked together through the small library as dusk settled in. No one recognized them anymore. No cameras, no gossip, just two people walking quietly in the ruins of who they used to be. When they reached the door, he turned to her. "Do you ever miss it?" "What?" "The pretending, the rush, the spotlight." She smiled. "Sometimes, but only when I forget that peace doesn't need an audience." He laughed softly. "You always had the last word." "Someone has to." A beat of silence passed, gentle, not tense. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "What's that?" she asked. "A check. My first donation to your foundation. No strings attached." "That's a first for you." "I'm learning," he said quietly. She took it, their hands brushing for just a moment. There was no tension now, no anger, just warmth. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For finally meaning it." He smiled, stepped back, and lingered at the door. "Goodbye, Arya." "Goodbye, Landon." He hesitated, just a heartbeat, before turning to leave. As the door closed behind him, Arya looked down at the check. The amount didn't matter. What mattered was the name signed at the bottom. Landon Hale. No titles, no company, no empire, just a man trying to make things right. Outside, the first stars appeared above the city. Inside, Arya exhaled, slow, steady, free. For the first time in her life, she didn't need a story to feel whole. A year passed. Time softened the sharp edges of everything. The scandals faded into memory. The headlines moved on, and the city, as it always did, forgot. But not Arya. She remembered. Not the pain, not the humiliation, but the lessons stitched inside every wound. She remembered what it felt like to lose everything, and how losing it gave her back herself. It was late spring when the invitations went out. Simple cream cards with gold lettering. No last names, just two words that said everything. Forever begins. No one expected it. No one believed it. Until that afternoon in a quiet vineyard outside Napa, when a small group gathered under the trees. Soft music floated in the air, mingling with the scent of lavender and sunlight. There were no cameras, no reporters, no gossip. Just friends, laughter, and the sound of a story finally finding peace. Arya stood in a gown of ivory silk, her hair loose, her smile unguarded. And beside her, not the billionaire, not the strategist, not the man from the papers, but Landon. No empire, no mask. Just Landon Hale, the man who'd once said, "Pretend we're together," and had somehow turned it into truth. When the vows began, she didn't shake. Her voice was calm, steady, certain. "You once told me to smile because they were watching," she said softly. "But today, I'm smiling because they're not." Landon's eyes glistened as he whispered back, "You taught me that love isn't performance. It's the quiet between the noise." The officiant spoke the final words, hands clasped, hearts lighter. And when the ceremony ended, applause echoed gently through the vineyard, not from a crowd desperate for drama, but from people who'd seen them survive it. As the sun dipped low, Arya looked out over the hills, the light painting everything gold. For the first time in years, she felt peace without the need to earn it. Landon slipped his arm around her shoulders. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That everything I lost led me right here." He smiled. "Still pretending?" She turned to him and shook her head. "Not anymore." They laughed, quiet and real, as the wind carried the sound away. Two souls who had started as enemies, broken by revenge and mended by truth, finally at home in the life they built from ruins. The same story that began with humiliation ended with grace. And when she looked up at the stars that night, Arya whispered the words that once began everything, now changed forever. "Pretend we're together." She smiled. "No need to pretend anymore. Tell me where you're watching from, your city and time right now. Would you have forgiven him? Would you have trusted love again?" Subscribe, because some stories don't end when the credits roll. They just begin again in peace.